Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Friday, October the 28th, the year's 2022. Let's talk trading. Weekly wrap up with Walmal today. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine and different from Walmal's. Walmal, how was your week?
It was an up and down week. I mean, at the end of the week, I had more money in the bank than I did before the week, which is good. Excuse me. I made core for the week. I had one day where I actually took a loss for the day, but I kept within my rules and within my trading plan, and so I didn't have a challenge in terms of going out there and busting the bank, as they say. You know? So that's the importance of the trading plan.
Okay, I'm going to run through the charts here for the boys and girls and non-binary traders out there. So on the open gap, we have three pairs that didn't fill the gap, and they are all pound pairs. And if we take a quick look at the monthly, we are 15 pips above the monthly open, 68 off the high, and 654 off the low. It's been one heck of a month. And in fact, we actually got into the upper wick zone of the previous month, and we've fallen below that level. And for the week, we're 182 pips above that weekly open. So those who took that weekly open crossover were rewarded. And if we look here on the daily chart, we actually had entered the opening range for the month, and I guess that's on Tuesday we actually exited that opening range for the month at 1333, and then on the week we actually exited the opening range on the week, and that line is at 1405. So we're 167 pips above that level. So a nice move there. Once again, looking at a monthly chart, you can see this month is green. We haven't had a green month. This will only be the third green month of the year. And we are 1,953 pips below that yearly open, 1215 off the yearly low, and 2175 off the high. Inside bar happened 8 days ago. And the high was 1409, call it 9, so call it 1410. We're 161 pips above that level. And notice we only had a few inside bars to trade on the daily and the weekly and the monthly. Today's range on the pound is 91, but we've got more pairs over 100 than under, with the pound yen and pound New Zealand both over 200 pips in range. And the euro is only at 72, and the euro is below par. And the Swiss franc is 97 pip range, and it too is below par. But notice the yen has pulled off of that 150 level. It's down to 147 with 189 pips. Buy zone traders were rewarded again today, crossing that daily open at 1558. We're at 1577 as I speak, so a lot of action on the buy zone today. Green rats, you had a chance to get in. Let's see, last hour at 1523 when price dipped into that green rat zone, and you would be rewarded with about 50 pips right now. So red rats, get ready. There's some interesting lines up here, and I believe one of them is the daily open. Pivot trading plan said near pivot point short. Pivots at 1583. Bambino flex indicator is indicating to go short also. On the weekly pivot, or on the pivot chart, we took out the daily pivot today. We had a missed pivot. There's a missed pivot from 2 days ago and 4 days ago. On the weekly, we took out the weekly pivot down at, let's see, we actually had a, where was that weekly pivot? It's kind of hard to see here. It was somewhere around 112.65. We took that out. And the monthly we took out also. Last month's is still an open pivot. So for this year, monthly, we have open pivots from March, April, May, and September. So we might wind up the year with some missed pivots. Okay, looking at the wick zone chart, we were in and out of that lower wick zone. And daily range, the weekly range so far is 388 at the 58 percentile. So we topped last week. We popped out of the high at 1439 for a total of 206 pips so far. We never exited the weekly low. We barely did we touch the weekly mid? We got close to the weekly mid and price turned around. For you rats, high minus close on the week is 71. Close minus low is 317. For you buy zone weekly crossover traders, high minus open 251 and open minus low 137. So once again, all those simple horizontal line methods, there was money to be made. And the Walmal method this hour would have netted you a possible 40 plus pips. And I'll just say something, and Walmart can tease me. I was in at 1539 and took about a couple of pips because I looked at the chart and looked like price. I didn't want price to reverse on me because I had been stuck at 1540, and I let the I had the tiger by the tail and let go way too soon.
Yeah, that happens. And the thing is, in fact, you sort of explode after that, and you got all upset. And I said something along the lines, but you got more money in the bank now than you had before. That's the first thing. And, and then full transparency on that, you were down on that trade prior to that pretty significantly. So sometimes you have to go and just say, you know what? I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out better than I came in. I was in a bad spot before that, and that's just part of trading, I think, if you don't mind, I'll disclose how many pips you've made for the day.
Go ahead.
You're up. Yeah, I think you're up like 15 pips or something like that for the day.
Yeah, 16. Yeah.
And you did that in 42 minutes. You know what? That's you put some money behind that. That's not a bad day's work, and so you can't complain, it's, it would have been nice to go and stay in that trade, but, we talk about brain management, emotional management, all that stuff, and sometimes you just, because, it took off like that, and, it took off literally 30 minutes after the news dropped, and it was a big news drop, but the thing is the news came in flat. So who knows why it took off the way it took off,
It's the launch pad, Walter. It does that all the time.
Oh, I know.
And that's why I jumped in the trade. But, here's what happened, though. When I jumped in that 40 trade, the previous candle had a higher, it was below that high, and it was looking like, this sucker could, and then when it went down and the candle turned slightly red, I'm thinking this sucker could drop like it had done before. So I was just looking at the chart, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to take the chance. So I just popped out and took, because it had oscillated a couple times. So I'm saying, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and take the money off the table. And that was and like I said, though, hindsight, it was making higher lows, but it was one of those things where going through all this drawdown all the way down to, what was it, 21. Like I said, I was in that trade, and then I got in another trade at tried to get in at 36. They put me in at 37. So I got sucked down on both of those. And then I think I went long at 28, and then I'd gone long at 32 because I was trading like every 4 pips. And so then when the market came back and gave me a couple of outs on the last two, I just started plinking it for 1 or 2 pips all the way back up. And then I finally had a chance to get out at 40, and so right here, right before the top of the hour. And since it didn't launch and it had failed to launch, previously, it was like, well, I'm just going to get out of the trade and whatever happens. Plus, I was going to make the video, so
Right.
and I just,
and that's why I'm saying,
yeah,
that's why I'm saying it wasn't necessarily a bad decision.
right,
And especially when you look left and you see how many times it failed at 42, 43, and sort of like, hey, I can get out of here with a little bit of a profit. Hey, I'll get out of here with a little bit of profit. Well, may it launch 20, 30 pips on you? Sure it could, and sure it did. But
yeah,
that's neither here nor there. It's. Yeah, I can't count eggs that haven't hatched. What I can do is I can go and count the chickens I have. And that's all you can do is count the chickens you have.
Yeah, and just so for those traders that don't know, Walmal actually has chickens.
A bunch of them.
Oh yeah, did you get your new batch yet?
I did. I got 100 meat birds that I'm raising right now. So, and that way I'll have enough meat for myself and my immediate family, and then also my kids as well. But yeah, so I got them. So I don't know if you're allowed to say that on a YouTube video or not nowadays, but yeah, they'll be dispatched humanely, and they will feed lots of people.
Yeah. So anyway, notice there was a couple interesting lines that price had crossed here. We went across the previous day's low. We went across the open. Once again, buy zone traders. So, and sticking in that trade, it's one of these things where, had I played this as a bet, I could have placed my bet at 40, put a stop loss at 30, could put a TP at 60, because I know it likes to run 40 to 60. And, that would have been 20 pips, and I still would have been mad because I would have, they brought out, 20 more shrimp to be had there on the platter. But let's go ahead and take a look at the couple more charts here. Frequency distribution here. What hour does price make the highs and the lows? You can see it likes to make the high around hour 17, and we're in hour 16. It also likes to make the high there, and it likes to make the low somewhere around, it really likes around hour 11, but also around the hours 15 through 18. It'll make daily lows too. And looking at the year-to-date accumulated range, we have not moved the needle so far this month. If we look at just the range by the month, you can see we have 722 pips in the month of October, which makes this a 1, 2. There's only 2 months that this year had more than 722, September and April. So lots of range here. And
the only thing I'd go and say, is that we've had an interesting couple of months here, and this is unusual times. I think there's lots of political unrest and such that's out there, and it's causing the markets to react differently than you normally would. And knowing that doesn't mean that you can't trade it. It just means that you got to go and keep your eyes open.
Yeah, because if you go back to the big years, what was it, 2008, 9, 10, if you start to look at these ranges, you can see, we're kind of on par for those for that year.
Right. And what's interesting, something I think I noted to you last week or the week before, is that when you go back and look at those years, those were also years of some unrest in the markets as well. The housing bubble in the U.S. crashed during that time. There was lots of concern about, a bunch of fraud that was happening on Wall Street. So it caused big volatility. And, even though that was all happening, quote unquote, in the stock markets, it pushed itself into the Forex market as well.
And you know what? It's 15 minutes is almost up. So, fellow traders, I hope you had a good week. I hope you have a fun and safe weekend. And it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks.